Hey, Taylor Johnson here. If you're listening to this, you've either made a great choice or you've accidentally clicked something while scrolling. Either way, you should stay. This is Pop Culture Pastor.
Pop Culture Pastor.
All right, Cody. One of my dreams in adulthood. So this is not a childhood dream, but an adulthood dream. Because my childhood version dream of this would just be, hey, I just want to stumble across a box of comic books.
Yes.
And that would have been the end of it, just because I want to read some comic books. But the adult version of that story is, I want to stumble across a box of old comic books in an attic somewhere, in a closet, long lost goods that someone else had and had them boxed up for a long time. And this story that we're going to talk about here first maybe is the going to that nth degree of...
It's the Holy Grail.
I mean, just the dream. It's the dream. But before we get to that, I should tell you, this is Pop Culture Pastor, the podcast. My name's Dave. Cody is here.
I am.
And basically what happened is this, Cody. 3 brothers from Northern California were going through their late mother's belongings. Their mom! I don't know why that's such a big part of the story for me. It just is. When they stumbled upon something huge, a life-changing discovery for them. Beneath stacks of old newspapers, they found a Superman #1 comic book, originally bought off the newsstand and forgotten about for decades.
So having had a relative that kept stacks of like just random like newspapers, so many people would have missed it and just thrown that away.
It did make me think, how many old comic books like this you think have been just chucked? People thinking it was trash and they never saw them.
So many.
Superman #1. This is the part that's kind of crazy, Cody, though, because they sent it off to get it graded. And so apparently it was sitting between these stacks of newspapers for a very, very long time. First of all, kudos to the newspaper savers. That's something.
Yeah. That is so scary, though, that they sent it off.
Yeah, right? Like,
you hear horror stories about how someone had a near mint comic book and then it has this huge crease.
Tell me they drove that. There's no way they mailed that, right?
I hope they drove it.
There's no way.
They're too trusting.
I need the book. I need the full story here. We need the details because there's no way they put this in the mail. But somehow they got it graded by CGC. It was a 9.
That's
got graded
ridiculous.
A 9. This is literally, this has been in that stack of newspapers since she bought it off the newsstand.
I had graded the last time we went to Planet Comic-Con, one edition of The World's Finest from the 60s. And it wasn't a key issue or anything. And it came back at like a 3.7. So like a 9 for something that's way older than The World's Finest.
It came back with like a 3.7 and a little sticky pad note that said you should fumigate the entire room this was in.
Pretty much.
That's wild. So for instance, I had bought a box of comic books here a few years back from a kid in Wichita who had like a bunch of early aughts comics. And I like to do that from time to time. I like to just, if they've got a long box they're trying to get rid of, I'll buy it, And it turned out it had mostly it was just aughts junk. But it turned out he had a first appearance of Miles Morales, Spider-Man in it, which was great. And I got really excited. And and it was in pretty good condition, but I sent it off and it came back 9.4. So this is 0.4. Like literally this is a comic book that's about 15 years old. It's only 0.4 better
than something that is Superman 100 years old, or at least 80.
Yeah, Yeah, I'm not for sure, but the auction is there's still 14 days left on it, according to this X post, and it's already at 3.3 million when this post was made. So it could be even higher by the time this episode drops.
Oh yeah, it is higher.
It's already higher. So for reference, in 2022, a CGC 8.0 sold for $5.3 million. So this one's certainly going to get higher than that. And so, like, you think about this. These brothers...
Oh, it wrapped up.
Oh, is it? It's done? Okay. Tell me what it finished.
So 9.12 million.
Oh, wow.
Each bro is getting at least 3 mil.
Well, okay. Let's settle down. So 9 point whatever million. How much does Uncle Sam get? About 3? Probably 3 million?
I mean, you take it and then you have to pay taxes.
Right. So really they're going to get about 6 million between them, which I think they'll take.
I would take it.
So I guess what I'm saying is, Mom, if you're listening, please tell me you bought some issue of a comic #1 and you have it stacked in newspapers.
I like to think your mom has the first edition of Spawn.
Who am I kidding? If she had it, she'd have sold it in a garage sale in 1984 for 25 cents. That's what would have happened if my family had it. All right. There was some other news this week, Cody, that got me a little upset. I wasn't ready for it, but you know our good friend Donald Glover.
I am very familiar with him. Community fame.
Yeah. From Community, he was
Atlanta and also Childish Gambino.
Yeah, he's awesome. We are unabashed lovers of Donald Glover.
This is America.
Yes, and so he was having a concert, and he told them. Quote, he said, starts talking to him, and he starts talking about this medical condition he went through last year. He said, I had a really bad pain in my head in Louisiana, and I did the show anyway. I couldn't really see well. So when we went to Houston, I went to the hospital, and the doctor was like, you had a stroke. And he said the first thing he thought was like, oh, here I am still copying Jamie Foxx. Meanwhile, the first thing I thought when I heard this was like, I was ready to march into the throne room of God. Like, don't you do this. Don't you take Childish Gambino from us.
I was like, oh, he's young. This isn't good.
No, I couldn't believe it when I was reading it. I was like, they haven't even made the Community movie yet.
They have not, which it had been delayed. And now with this news, it might make more sense of some of the delays.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I just wanted to point out how dreadfully close we came to losing Donald Glover.
A hole in his heart.
Yeah. And you wonder, so many people, like usually in sports, you'll hear stories of someone just collapsing and kind of dying at a young age when they get worked up. And I suppose like a concert situation might, get your heart rate going a little bit.
Yeah.
And so, we could have lost Donald Glover due to a genetic or congenital heart defect,
Unfortunately, it does happen.
Pay attention to the signs your body gives you, I think.
Yes.
Sometimes a headache's not just a headache.
Also, make sure you visit your primary care physician regularly.
That's our wisdom. Should we leave them with Donald Glover's wisdom? Because he wrapped this up with something.
Okay.
And he's going to be a lot better of a wordsmith than we are. He said this to his audience. They say everyone has 2 lives, and the second life starts when you realize you have one. You should be living your life how you want. If we have to do this again, it can only get better. Yeah. It's poignant and great wording. He's really got it, man.
He does.
Childish Gambino, rocking the wordplay.
Also, let's make that Community movie.
Yeah, we need to get that Community. God, protect him. We need that Community movie. All right. Cody, should we go talk about Wicked 2 for good?
Or for worse.
There's a preview. All right. We're going to go talk about this movie. Hang around. We'll be right back. Greetings. Dave's Blurb Voice here. In a world where we do movie reviews on a podcast, you need to be aware that we are going to spoil the nerd out of this movie. We know that spoilers aren't everyone's cup of tea, so if that's you, go ahead and hit pause, see the movie, and then come back and listen to this thrilling podcast later. The Pop Culture Podcast movie review starts now. All right, Cody, here we are. You've just, everyone's just heard the spoiler warning. We are going to spoil the nerd out of this movie.
I will try my best to keep my spoils relevant.
Real question, though, honestly speaking.
Yes.
Can you spoil this movie? Is this maybe one of the all-time movies where everyone already knows how this plays out?
Okay, so my wife did not know fully how this plays out.
She didn't.
No.
I thought she would have read the book.
Well, I bought the books for her, and she never finished the book.
That's good, because the book's wildly different than the stage play in this movie.
She did ask me after we got out of the movie theater today, does Elphaba really live? And I'm like, yeah, she pops out of the floor on Broadway. Just like that. So that ending, she wasn't ready for it, and I think that there was tears of potential mourning of Elphaba by my wife, and then like, she's alive.
Yeah, we'll talk about how we feel about that later.
Yes.
I have a feeling that at least one of us, if not both of us, maybe not so hot with that change from like Wizard of Oz canon.
Yes.
But we'll get there. We're here to talk about Wicked 2. Is it Wicked 2 or is it just Wicked for Good?
I think it's Wicked for Good,
Yeah.
but I call it Wicked 2.
The sequel to the first Wicked, which really, I mean, calling this a sequel is really kind of a misnomer in a lot of ways.
It's a continuation.
Yeah, it's all part of this one story that they basically split into two movies.
Did you see there were theaters where you could watch part 1 and part 2?
I did see that. You didn't take part in that?
No, that would have been like the Snyder cut on roids. I don't think I could have done it.
Like if you did that, you probably have a framed playbill hanging in your house, or many of them.
I have one.
You have a framed playbill?
From when I went to Broadway and saw
Oh, you
Wicked.
framed it? That's sweet. That's awesome. Yeah.
And right below it is my ticket from Monty Python Spamalot, because I did not keep that playbill for some reason. Even though I preferred Spamalot over Wicked, and Spamalot still might be my favorite musical play of all time.
Oh, how did you not keep that playbill?
Because I was a high school kid, Dave.
But yet a high school kid who still saved the other playbill and framed it.
I don't know how that one got saved, and I didn't frame it until like we moved to our new house like 2 months ago. So,
and you were like, if we frame this and hang it up, people will think I'm cultured.
Exactly.
So Wicked for Good, it's got a 7.1 on IMDb, 60% on Metacritic. These numbers are a little deflated compared to the first one.
In which reading reviews from Rotten Tomatoes, when it was about to drop from the critics, they were all over the place on this one.
Yeah, especially your like actual real critics.
Yes.
The actual film critics. And I think by the time we get to the end of this, you'll see how we both kind of agree with that in a lot of ways.
I learned that maybe I am a film critic at heart.
Because this movie suffers a little bit. There's some unevenness at best. Like, to say there's unevenness, there's maybe problems with the way that they slap it all together. Because this second movie, they're having to fill in a lot of gaps. Because the stage play kind of rushes through an ending and doesn't give you all the details.
You don't need all the details.
No, because it's about the music in the stage play.
And also, it leaves it open for your imagination. And I'm okay with having to think a little bit.
Yeah. So, directed by John M. Chu, 2 hour and 17-minute runtime, which, whew.
I was like, this should have been short.
No,
The
sir.
second part of the play was short.
It was, but not the movie. Are you ready? Should I give the blurb?
Yes.
Should give the blurb. All right, here we go. Now demonized as the Wicked Witch of the West, Elphaba lives in exile in the Ozian forest, while Glinda resides at the palace in Emerald City, reveling in the perks of fame and popularity. As an angry mob rises against the Wicked Witch, she'll need to reunite with Glinda to transform herself and all of Oz for good. That sounded like a horror movie there at the end. For good. What happens? Yeah, that would have been a more interesting movie, I think. What if she just went total evil? She's the only one in the movie with real power. All right. So, yeah, essentially, this movie revolves around the friendship of Elphaba and Glinda. The blurb spells that out very well about how they're kind of separated into these two different worlds. Glinda is a part of the establishment that Elphaba is trying to tear down.
And Glinda could be tearing it down from the inside, but she's having to deal with shenanigans from Elphaba.
Yeah, and essentially, it has this bigger thing going on as what drives the plot forward. But the stage play and the movie are essentially about them. It's about those two and their friendship.
Yes.
And so that's the movie kind of in a nutshell. Ends interestingly with rewriting some Wizard of Oz story where Elphaba, it was all a trick. The witch doesn't get melted by water.
No.
How did they fool Dorothy into that? I assume it was a spell.
Well, it looks kind of smoky in the shadows. Mm-hmm. And so I didn't know if it was like sleight of hand, smoke and mirrors. I'm going to fall into this trap door that no one knows.
Yeah. She survives. The wizard leaves. And much like he does in the story in Wizard of Oz, he goes with the... But we assume he makes it back to the real world. Although I'm unclear how that balloon gets there. Because she gets back with the slippers.
She does.
What's her name? Slippers. What's her name in the movie?
The Wicked Witch of the East.
The Wicked Witch of the East.
The governor.
Nessarose. Nessie.
Yes.
Nobody calls her that. But, and her story, which is sort of, they alter her story quite a bit too.
They do.
And make her a bit part, which I'm not sure I liked either. But yeah, and then Elphaba and Fiero, now the Scarecrow, kind of walk off into the sunset to start their lives of anonymity together. It's unclear where they're going, and why can't they just go to Kansas?
Yes.
All these characters are just finding their way back to Kansas. Let's go more behind the scenes, because one of the more interesting behind the scenes things about this movie is that John Chu basically walks into the office at the beginning of all this of movie executives and says, this is 2 movies. I can't fit this all into one. To which the movie executives are pretty adamant that it's one. Cody, I know you have thoughts on this, so go ahead and give us your thoughts. Could this have been one movie?
It definitely could have been one movie. The play would have fit inside the regular time frame of the first movie as far as length. And I think you could have sped up some parts of the story with having movie capabilities of CGI or whatever, and having a stunt team and all that jazz. And you could have elongated some stories and like made some out. Breaking it up into 2, it wasn't a bad idea. I think I would prefer it as 1, but 2, you can make some stuff breathe and tell some side stories that aren't flushed out in the play, but you got to pick and choose and decide what pace you're going to go at.
Yeah. So there were lots of debates early on, apparently, on whether this was going to be one or two movies. And Chu finally puts his foot down, apparently, at one of the meetings and says, we can't debate this every meeting, so let's make a decision and commit. And while he was still kind of in that honeymoon period of he was their choice to direct it and he had a little power to swing around, they went with him. They said, let's do 2 movies. So that's how that plays out in the background. Then you've got the defying gravity problem, which is what I'll call it. Steven Schwartz has talked about how they tried for a while to make it one film. But he's one of the executive. But cutting it down meant losing moments they loved. Defying Gravity is literally written as the curtain drop before the first intermission. Mm-hmm. And it works that way. Like it's the climax of that first set, right? And anything that comes right after that without a break just feels anticlimactic. So Chu leans into that, and he's called Defying Gravity the greatest gift you could ever have as an ending number. He builds part 1 around earning that moment and sort of builds into that, and seeds everything perfectly so that when you need Cynthia Erivo to come and just knock that out of the park, it feels like what everyone was waiting for the whole movie, and it works great. As we talked about last year, we reviewed this movie. Go listen to that pod if you would like.
I gave it a glowing review.
We did. We both loved the first installment of Wicked. And whether you love or hate the split of these 2 movies, I think it's fair to say it wasn't just a cash grab. It was a creative decision.
This time, yes.
Love how democratically you said that there. Diplomatically said it, not democratically. Yes. So Chu if we're doing Wicked, we're going to let it breathe like the stage show, and we're not going to chop it down into a greatest hits medley. Another one of the most fascinating things for me about this, the first and second segment of this, when we put it together as one story, is John Chu is basing this and had to kind of pick from 2 very different legacies. So on one end, you've got the Gregory Maguire novel. This is all based on. And then the other one, you've got the long-running Broadway musical. And yet, I think he does a decent enough job of kind of planting the third flag here. Because while it does take its cues and is a version of the stage musical, I think what's going to happen is eventually this is going to be its kind of standalone thing. Because it does change enough and do enough other things to kind of set it apart from just going to see the stage musical.
I guess it would do what Wizard of Oz, the movie, did compared to the book. That, like, it's its own entity.
Yeah. And so, if you're not familiar, in the book, first of all, the book is much more dark, much more complex, more about the political machinations of Oz, and that Elphaba and Glinda are merely players in. It's not so much centered around their relationship, although that's a big part of the story, but it's more centered around about how politics are just seedy.
No matter what side you're on.
And so in the book, she does die tragically and definitively. She dies at the hands of Dorothy, which is what we all thought we saw at the end of Wizard of Oz.
It's what I saw and what I'm choosing to believe.
There's no tricks. There's no hidden escape hatch. The stage musical famously rewrites that ending, revealing that Elphaba's death was a ruse. She fakes her melting and escapes with Fiyero, turning the tragic ending into a romantic, bittersweet liberation story. And so that's kind of what we're looking at here. I would invite anyone to go read that original book by Gregory Maguire.
Eventually my wife will.
Yeah, it's the full name. It's got a really long name. It's like Wicked, The Life and Times of the Wicked Witch of the West or something like that.
And evidently there's like 3 books in the series.
Yeah, apparently I'm going to have to... I did not know there were sequels to that book.
There are.
But I'm afraid it's been so long in the stage play and the movie now, or what's in my brain, I'd have to reread the first one because it is quite different. But Cody, let's just start with let's get into this review. What is good about Wicked for Good?
I'm not going to say the cast to start off. I will say the song For Good. It was great. Yeah. And so there's two songs. I saw the play on Broadway either 05 or 06. And there's two songs that I remembered from that play. It was Defying Gravity and For Good. Those were the two songs I remembered. The rest of it, I completely forgot because, I mean, it's almost been 20 years ago.
That's pretty wild because No Good Deed is a huge song in that musical.
I know, but the two songs I remembered
all right, okay,
were those two. And so getting to see that on the big screen was a big deal, and with two powerhouse singers going back and forth and carrying the emotional beats that it needs to have, I was here for it.
Yeah, and that For Good, you know, so much of the musical, they're really, you called them powerhouses, and they're really showing off the power.
Yes.
Whereas in that one, the For Good, they get to carry the emotional conclusion to the story, basically. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, I think the movie absolutely gets to nail that. Those two specifically. And that's what I'll start with what's good for me is the obvious tying into that Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande, they're fantastic in this, which makes sense. We both liked them in the first one, and they're great in this. Whatever debates that people want to have about the adaptation of this story, I think these two absolutely nail the emotional backbone of this story. And because part 2 is all about kind of the unraveling of their friendship, you know, the betrayal on some level, the miscommunications, the deep affection that they still have underneath the obvious disagreement about how they should lead their lives. The movie is going to live or die on their chemistry. And of course, nobody's going to argue their chemistry is great. So thankfully, their scenes together have a lot of weight. There's hurt, there's disappointment, but there's love all tangled up in all of that. And that they never lose that, to which they should be praised. It was great. I went back and looked at my notes on the first pod. I thought Cynthia Erivo should have been nominated or won an Oscar. In fact, I think I claimed she was going to win the Oscar. She did not.
She did not. My wife said if she doesn't win an Oscar this go round, she might boycott the Oscars forever. So
she'll get no argument from me. Cody, what else is good?
I mean, still the set, the vibrant colors and the contrast visually, it gives you the Oz feeling.
Yeah.
Which, considering like how significant the Wizard of Oz was for film in general, especially like you go from black and white to that vibrant color, like it's a huge deal. And so much so that like they changed the color of the slippers from the book to the Wizard of Oz movie, just so you can see how bright the ruby red is in Technicolor or whatever they're using at the time.
Yeah.
And you get still that overwhelming, like, wow, this is bright.
Yeah.
Feel, especially if you have been going through like the action superhero movies from the late aughts into the teens.
Yeah, the Snyder years.
Yes.
A little dark, little gray.
A lot of gray.
Yeah, you couldn't help but smile at the beginning of this movie, seeing the scenes where the yellow brick road is being built. That was really cool and a nice touch. And it's been so long since I read the book. I don't know if that's a big thing in the books or if that's just something they kind of fleshed out here in the movie. Because they don't do it obviously in the the stage play. There's no reason to. But
Nope.
here it's just like a little, almost like a little Easter egg that gives you this wonderful kind of tie to the original story that this is all based on. And of course it ties, there's like a line in the song Wonderful that also ties to the building of the road too, which is all you really get in the stage musical.
That's all you really need.
Yeah. Musically, I think No Good Deed for me ends up being the equivalent of Defying Gravity in the first one. I really thought it was wonderfully done. It's a showstopper, and it's the moment for me that the movie kind of really capitalizes and turns itself into this emotional crux of their story. Cynthia Erivo absolutely obliterates it, of course. And in fact, I think it's the one song in either movie where I'm finally willing to get on board and say, oh, this is an improvement. She finally dethrones Idina Menzel, or whatever John Travolta calls her.
Yeah.
I think her version of Defying Gravity is exceptional. And the rawness of that, where she does make changes where it feels like the kind of this emotional rawness, it's perfect for the tonal shift in this second installment. Do you have anything else good? I have a couple things. But
the only other thing that I will add is that the silver slippers become ruby red through a spell, and it's a good way to connect the Wizard of Oz book to the Wizard of Oz movie for a little bit, although immediately they kind of go back to silver. So I was like, well, that was short-lived.
Right? Yeah. Interesting what because that was all a lot of the stuff with Nessa, which is where we kind of first see the slippers, right? In the first movie. And then in this movie, that whole scene is rewritten where in the stage play, she asks Elphaba to make her walk again.
Which I thought would have been more impactful for me, but
yeah,
they did not go that route.
So they had some good reasons for it, because apparently they don't want, like, there's some trope that maybe folks with disabilities aren't super huge fans of, which is like the wish fulfillment trope.
Mm-hmm.
And so they change it in this one to give her the feeling she had that first night she falls in for Bach.
Yes.
And so I think so. But that ends up changing the slippers quite a bit in that translation. And I'm not sure they can adequately cover for it, although it's not super important.
No. And honestly, the slippers were kind of a mute point, and we'll get to that and things that doesn't work.
Yeah, right? Interestingly enough, which is kind of what I was hinting towards. Just like, yeah, that changes some things, and I don't know if you can unchange it. Jeff Goldblum, as always, excellent. And maybe interestingly, not an always thing for him. He ends up being genuinely moving at one portion, because you expect Jeff Goldblum to be quirky or playful because it's Jeff Goldblum.
I expected him to turn into a fly.
That's old Jeff Goldblum there. But when the wizard discovers that Elphaba was his daughter, he delivers with this kind of wounded, broken quietness that's all played in his face. And it's one of the few moments where this film kind of pauses long enough to let some of the tragedy that's in this story kind of breathe a little bit. And they did it for that part, which I'm glad they did, because that scene hits harder than I expected it to.
Although with, like, by that point, like, everything is, like, more rapidly paced. Mm-hmm. And so, like, it almost felt throwaway to me, like it being included. It took away from, like, me being like, oh my goodness, like, but it was, we'll get to it and what doesn't work.
And then I think I would be remiss if I didn't bring up something really impressive, I think, behind the camera, which is I feel like this movie feels dramatically different from part one. It feels heavier, looks darker. It's a more fractured story. And yet that tonal shift doesn't feel jarring to me. I feel like we're in the same world. And that's even more wild considering that it was filmed all at the same time. It's filmed back to back. And I think John Chu does a good job of changing the tone of the feel of these two movies without losing the world building.
I have thoughts.
Okay. Well, then let's go to them. Let's go to what's not so good.
So we'll start with that just because it's where we left off. The Matrix series did this with 2 and 3. They were filmed at the same time. I feel one, if not both movies, when you do that thing, just historically is impacted. That the storytelling is not as good, especially considering I don't know how long the first movie was, but it felt like 2.5, 3 hours. And you have another 2 hour and 17 minute runtime with this. Like, mentally, I don't know anyone that can juggle that much film time and like map it out perfectly, like how you want it to pace, and be structured and hit the high notes on a lot of this. And so for me, a lot of things fall flat, and I'm going to blame that. And just the pace was so weird and wonky. Like, there were scenes that I'm like, why are we giving so much time to this? And then by the end, we're trying to get through it, and it's like, well, all this needs time to breathe. And you don't get that. And the complaints that I heard with Thor: Love and Thunder about, like, there's some intricate moments of emotion that did not need a joke to immediately follow. There were significant moments of emotion that did not need to be rushed through in this, and they were.
What else? What else is not so good, Cody?
What are you thinking? Relegating Coleman Domingo to like 3 lines.
Also, did we need to CGI him? Like, okay, I understand you've CGI'd a bunch of the other animals with just voices, but doesn't it make more sense if this is all in the land of the Wizard of Oz that it's a dude like kind of made up to look like a lion?
And especially since there is a movie already with the dude dressed as a lion.
And it's Coleman Domingo.
Oh, like,
I'm with you, buddy.
They should have watched The Running Man first and seen, oh, this guy can chew up some scenery.
It's amazing, right? Because roughly gets the same amount of screen time in both movies, and we come away praising him in The Running Man. This one, I didn't even know it was him until I looked at the cast list.
I was shocked, and I'm like, why did we do this to Coleman?
I don't know. But I'm assuming he got paid nicely for his couple days of work. Anything else that you'd like to complain about?
I do. So there is the whole Fierro, like, who does he like debacle, and he ends up choosing Elphaba, but then, like, Elphaba doesn't have any real, like, hesitations about, well, he was dating my best friend. Like, no, we're good. And then, like, is super callous after the house falls on her sister, and is like, he chose his woman, get over it. And I'm like, whoa, like, you two are supposed to be kind of friends. And this is where the slippers comes back, because it's the only other time it's mentioned, and like, she makes it almost a Martha moment. Like, I need these slippers from Dorothy now, and then, like,
yeah,
completely disregarded.
Yeah, you can't really follow the logic of her her connection to the slippers being the only thing she has of her sister when she mourned for her for about 22 seconds.
At most.
You're absolutely right. Like that is, although I will say that is one of the drawbacks of the changes you make from the book. The book's obviously got loads more time to get into the context of all that and the mourning for her sister and how bitterly angry she is at everyone else because her sister dies because of the environment in Oz more than anything else in all this. She understands everyone's getting used and played by the wizard, and but how angry she is. But there's an underlying love of her sister that doesn't quite get any good work here in this movie
at all. Like, and there's several scenes with Elphaba after. Like, could have mentioned, "Oh, I'm still so upset."
Yeah, right. Like it's just she's gone and forgotten. Really a misstep with the Nessa Rose portion of the storyline.
Yes, that's enough complaining out of me.
Yeah, I'll run through mine. Really, there's 2 new songs in this one from the stage musical.
Yes,
I think it's one of the bigger misses in this version. I appreciate the intention of the new songs. It gives the characters more emotional context. It expands their motivations. It fills in some psychological gaps. But the musicality of the new songs just didn't sit right with me next to the originals, right? They feel sort of alien to me.
Yep.
When you hear them, and like when I hear them, I'm like, oh, it's good. It's well written. It's well performed. They just feel like it wandered in from a different musical, if that makes sense.
Cats.
And when you're dealing with a show where like kind of the memory of the melody of all the things running through it, the clash is just pretty noticeable. And then there's the ending. We've talked a little bit about it. The movie opts for the happiest, most Wayne's World style, mega happy ending possible. And while that's all sweet and everything, it also kind of slowly kind of sands down what makes this entire story such a compelling re-examination of the Wizard of Oz. And that's the tragedy, the tragicness of it all. And by ending it the way you ended it, some of that gets lost. Just like the sister. Mm-hmm. The character of the sister just kind of gets lost in that.
Rest in peace, said no one.
One of the most haunting elements of the stage show for me is Glinda. Is her fate. Because she's at the end of that musical, she's just alone, and they do things with the imagery as Elphaba and Fiyero are walking off into their lives together. The imagery is that Glinda is alone, and the stage musical shows that to you. And you think about that. She's adored by everyone, but she's trapped by her own image. And ultimately, she's completely alone. It's a sad ending for her. And that emotional bleakness kind of gets lost in this version, I think.
They needed Zack Snyder to come in.
I think the film kind of pulls the teeth out of that. Of Elphaba and Fiyero walk off into the sunset like they're headed to Margaritaville. and Glinda she doesn't seem all that broken and conflicted to me. She just seems fine.
Yeah.
And when you siphon the tragedy out of a story that's literally built on tragedy, a story explicitly designed to kind of reframe the character of the Wicked Witch of the West, I think you flatten the emotional impact of not just this story, but the entire Oz story itself.
I don't disagree, because the way this ended, it made me regret that Wicked even exists.
Well, right. And we've talked so much about this with these continuations of IP. Like that maybe it's just something you can't avoid. We talked a lot about it with Gladiator and how it appeared they didn't even stop and think about what this story will do to the original.
Yes.
So the book leans into the bleakness. The musical honors it with kind of this heartbreak. But the movie kind of politely steps around all that. And it's not bad. It's just weirdly tidy.
It's American.
Okay, that's all I got. It's time for Recast It. Cody, who are you recasting?
Oh, this is going to sound sacrilegious.
Uh-oh.
So it almost was Bach, but like Bach.
That's very easy choice, by the way.
That was easy. Also, that character could have been cut from this whole movie, and I would not have missed anything.
Agree.
It almost was Ness.
Agree.
Again, I did not go.
Love
that
her.
route.
Love that character. Love the actress. But boy, the movie does her wrong.
Yes, I'm going with Goldblum.
Okay.
This
is interesting. I'm interested to hear this.
I did enjoy Jeff in the first one, and the emotional scene at the very end with him. He does a good job. Like, his singing ability isn't the best. It's not the worst, but it's not the best. Mm-hmm. He's a bit quirky in parts, and I also still have the original Oz in my head. I do think that there's times to be emotionally grounded. So I went with, and this is a guy that I know could sing, but I also know he damaged his vocal cords doing it. Jeremy Irons. Scar.
Yeah.
From The Lion King. But he can sing, and he has like that deep voice that when you're behind the curtain, like, that would have been even creepier to have his voice. And I think that he would have been more grounded at times, where I thought Jeff was a little too much aloof.
Yeah. Well, it's fascinating because I thought about it for half a second. And this is after I put Goldblum in my What's Good of the movie. And he is good in the movie. It's always fun having Goldblum in a movie. I'm just not so sure it's good for the movie because of this. When you put Jeff Goldblum into that character, he becomes less a villain and more of just a guy who he's charming. He's complex, which is great. We want complicated characters.
We do.
We like villains who just aren't mustache twirling villains. But it's almost like he can't be the character they need him to be. Mm-hmm. And then it all falls on Madame Morrible, who's cartoonishly evil.
She is.
Compared to all the characters in these two movies, her character is the thinnest, and it leads to bad things for our friend Michelle Yeoh. Because just like the first one, I'm going to recast her. And I don't think it's all her fault.
It's not. Although, like you said, Jeff Goldblum is so charming that, like, there's parts of the second movie where I'm like, I think Elphaba's the bad person.
Maybe, I don't know, right?
Like, I think Jeff's just trying his best to make people feel happy.
Well, and that's the thing is, Madame Morrible's hardly in this movie, and so she can't really be the one that's driving the evil, right?
You wouldn't think.
And the wizard's just not evil enough, other than he's just a narcissistic twit. He's kind of an idiot.
Yep.
Michelle Yeoh is phenomenal. She's iconic. She brings gravitas everywhere she goes. But this specific role in what they needed from it, I'm just not convinced she's the right fit at all.
Can I tell you what role I thought she would do good in after watching this movie?
Sure. Hit me with it.
So as she's manipulating the weather, I'm like, oh, if they bring back the OA... she will be great.
Narrator, they're never bringing back the OA. I think this version of Morrible leans too hard into obvious villain territory. She comes across as evil incarnate. She's a caricature. There's no deception. There's no charm. There's no manipulation. She's not luring anyone in. She's just a villain. And what the role really needed was someone who could kind of weaponize sweetness.
Yes.
Which is not Michelle Yeoh's wheelhouse. Michelle Yeoh is who you bring on when you need a woman to kick the crud out of some dudes.
Yeah.
You needed someone in this role who audiences instinctively would trust. Someone remembered for their roles of innocence, warmth, or lovable naivety. And when we recasted her in the first one, I said Meryl Streep. But I now realize even she might not be right for this role. So I'm going with her Devil Wears Prada co-star, Anne Hathaway.
I thought you were going to say Jennifer Lawrence.
No. Anne Hathaway has decades of audience goodwill built on roles like The Princess Diaries, Ella Enchanted, and other things I haven't seen. And even when she plays morally gray characters like the Catwoman in the Nolan Batman verse, she still has that kind of wide-eyed, instantly trustworthy energy. And I think just by virtue of being her, makes this character, who's thinly written and very just thin, it makes it better by being a more trustable, naive-like character who's got all these machinations brewing underneath.
Okay, so if we go with Anne Hathaway and Jeremy Irons, I think you fix a lot of problems. Because Jeremy is, you think that he can be evil. Because he does evil well.
Well, it does fix a lot, because I think while we love Jeff Goldblum, I think the problem is the villain problem is in this story. Whereas Jeff Goldblum just can't be the villain. Not totally. He is, in a manner of speaking, because his own pride and like the song spells it out about how it just felt really good that they adored me.
Yeah.
But you don't get the total villainy from him, and then it all lands on Morrible and destroys her character. And so I think both of those fixes, you're right. I think it fixes it. It's time for deeper themes, Pastor's Corner. For me, the line that I really locked onto is near the end when Glinda is struggling with what she's going to have to do, what role she's going to have to play. And the role she plays in remembering Elphaba specifically. And like Glinda's kind of this idea that she wants to tell everyone the truth. And Elphaba stops her and says, no, I have to be wicked so you can be good. Right? First of all, I love the unstated thing here, which is they're neither.
Yeah.
They are neither of these things. She's saying in so many words, this is how humanity works, right? People are weirdly wired to need these clean categories. We crave the comfort of good guys and bad guys, not because it's morally accurate, but because it's emotionally stabilizing for us.
We do love a good us versus them.
Yes, Oz has been through chaos. Political machinations, magical corruption, social upheaval, and the people need a story that helps them relax. A simple one. And maybe even celebrate a little. And the simple story only works if someone wears the villain hat. And Elphaba understands that. She understands that Glinda will not be able to lead effectively if the truth gets just spilled out onto the floor. Like a box of tangled Christmas lights, right? The wizard was corrupt, Morrible was worse, and everything you thought you knew people was wrong. That doesn't unite people. That fractures them. They get scared. Mm-hmm. So Elphaba steps into the archetype that the world needs her to fill. Her wickedness becomes the myth that allows Glinda to effectively govern, and that is uncomfortably close to real life, Cody.
And that no one is truly pure evil or pure good.
Yes, we're actually quite complex creatures, but we don't like moral ambiguity in our leaders, which the song Wonderful actually hits on. We want saints and villains. We want a cosmic scoreboard where we are standing roughly on the side that gets the check mark, right?
You betcha.
Machiavelli actually had a lot to say about this. If you remember the philosopher.
It's a few years before my time.
He argued that benevolent leadership is what people want. They want a leader that they think cares about them. But that's not always what gets someone into power. Often the path to real influence is messy, it's strategic, you have to be manipulative, and then once you get there, you try to rule kindly once you're there. That's Glinda. That's Elphaba. That's their part in this story. That's a political reality dressed in yellow brick roads and emerald cities. And so Wicked for Good tries to deliver this hopeful ending, but buried inside it is this truth that the book leans into much harder, of course, but there are no purely, as Cody said, there are no purely good or purely wicked people. They're just people, complicated, flawed, hurting, striving, and they're all trying to keep their worlds from breaking apart. And sometimes the only way to keep the world still standing is you got to play along with something you know is not actually the case.
Ouch.
Yeah, it's tough. We all, it turns out humans want there to be truth, but we don't often want the truth.
Jack taught me that one.
If that's, I know what I just said makes no sense, but it does if you think about it.
Again, ask Jack Nicholson.
Yeah. All right. We need to go to the geek phone, Cody. We have a guest.
We do have a guest.
And I haven't been able to say this for a long time, but I'm excited because we're going to bring in a listener who's a super fan of Wicked. So here it is. Cody. To the geek phone!
To the geek phone with cleaning supplies.
Pop Culture Pastor.
All right, Cody, we're on the geek phone.
It had dust.
I had to clear off the cobwebs
Yes.
to get to this thing, but it was down there and I answered it. It's still got a cord on it. The geek phone has a cord. Meanwhile, we're completely ignoring who's on the geek phone.
We are.
On the phone is Lauren. Lauren, say hello.
Hi, everybody.
Lauren, why don't you tell everybody who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so I live in Dallas, Texas. I'm on staff at my church here. Longtime fan of the podcast. I looked it up today. I can't believe it's been like 4 years already. So that is exciting. And I'm here because we're talking about musicals, and I've gotten really into them the last few years.
Yeah, so I kind of described you as a Wicked super fan. Would that be correct?
Yeah, I think so. If I give you a little bit of my background, I actually got into musicals because of my husband. I actually grew up despising musicals. I'd only been exposed to a lot of the classic movies, and I was like, the whole town doesn't just start singing and dancing out of nowhere. I don't like it, not realistic. So anyway, I saw my first off-Broadway performance in 2017. Realized I really like it on stage. I just didn't like the style that I had seen before. By the end of this year, I will have seen 49 performances.
Wow.
42 of them are professional. 42 are unique shows. I've seen 7 of them twice. Wicked is one of them. I've seen the first movie 3 times, the second already twice, and I will see it for a 3rd time next week with my grandmother and have tickets to see the stage show again in May. So I will have seen each part of the movie and the stage show 3 times each by May.
So you would say that Wicked's your favorite?
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. I have not seen as many, but because I have daughters who are very into musicals, I have seen at least a handful now. But I would say that Wicked was, I think, my favorite until I saw Hadestown, which I really enjoyed. So when does Wicked first get you? Like when is it that you're like, okay, this is my thing? Is it like, the first time you see that stage show? Had you read the book? Is it a specific performance like within the show? What hooked you?
Yeah, the first time I saw the show, I had not read the book. I believe it was the second show I ever saw. My best friend is a theater teacher, and I surprised her by taking her down to San Antonio, which for anyone not from Texas is about 5 hours from where we live. Picked up a bunch of our friends, drove her down there, and we saw the musical together. And that was my first exposure, and I absolutely loved it, and I've been hooked ever since.
You have read the book?
I have not.
You have not read the book.
Mm-mm.
Where the musical kind of takes this story is somewhere so different than where the book took you. It's almost as if it's sort of a companion piece to the musical, not the musical's a companion piece to the book, if that makes any sense.
It
Yeah,
does.
and I've heard that from a lot of people.
But not dissimilar to The Wizard of Oz, which, the movie becomes kind of like the definitive story instead of the books, which were quite different.
Mm-hmm.
Fascism.
No, really, that's what it's about now. So what does Wicked mean to you at this point in your life?
Yeah, I think the big reason that Wicked became so special to me was because of the themes behind it, and which the big one I would identify is just that person that feels like they don't fit in, no matter what they do, no matter how good they are, no matter how much they're helping others, that everyone's always against them, but that intrinsic need to do good regardless for the sake of doing good. And I've always loved that theme. And so I just thought that that was a really cool thing to put on the stage. And I think a lot of people identify with that, the feeling left out, feeling like you're on your own sometimes. And to see a story where, again, she persevered through it and said, okay, well, I'm going to continue to fight for you, even though you don't believe in me.
It's interesting because I think by doing what the musical did, which is taking a very like Gregory Maguire and the novels he wrote a couple of them where he kind of continues off of some sort of fairy tale-ish type story. And those novels were very complex and dark, but mostly really complex. They were complicated. And it serves as the baseline for the story, obviously, still. So that complicated nature is still in these characters. But I think what the musical does, just in a simplicity standpoint, is simplifies it into like one of these kind of story factors that we're always talking about here on the pod that humans just kind of like, we respond to. And so, yes, I think everyone in their life at some point has felt this, I can't do anything right. No matter what I do, it backfires, and I don't feel like I belong. And I think that part of the musical really that you have said inspires you or whatever that would be the same for a lot of folks. It's just one of those things that kind of get us. So you had a watch party for the first one to get ready to go see the second one. Can you describe that a little bit?
Yeah, that was really fun. I've been looking forward to it for a very long time. So I went with the theme Pink Goes Good with Green. And rather than doing snacks themed off of the like maybe places or people, I did it all pink and green. So we had like guacamole and pink starbursts, or I had, the green lollipops, green and pink drinks. I mean, just anything you could think of. Everything was pink and green. And got a shirt for it. I mean, everything went all out. Little blankets. Was very excited to share that with my friends and watch it again, getting ready for part two.
That's amazing. That's awesome. Yeah, I saw some of the pictures, and it felt somewhat humbling that you put more effort into your watch party than probably I have in any of my children's birthdays.
Or this podcast.
You shut your mouth, Cody. Okay, well, let's get to the actual movie, Wicked 2 for Good. You watched it. You after prepping with a party for the rewatch of the first one. What's your kind of, as you're walking out of the theater, what's your initial reaction? Does it land for you?
It did. There were a few small things that I had some grievances with, but overall, I felt like the emotional beats that I felt were the most important. They all hit or exceeded my expectations. So I walked out satisfied.
Good. How do you feel, before we get into like the last few categories that we brought you on to do with us, how do you feel about the ending of this one compared to the stage version? Does the overall happier tone work for you, or do you feel like it undercuts the tragedy a little bit? Because we talked about earlier in the pod that the stage musical still ends with Elphaba obviously having tricked everybody and being alive, but there is in the imagery where the Glenda kind of is alone, and I don't know that the movie really gives you an idea of what's like of her being alone as much as the stage musical does. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from with that. I disagree a little bit because I think that she has shown over and over throughout the movie that she's going to do what she needs to do to basically be on for the public, if that makes sense. So when she's, in the beginning, when she's addressing everyone, every time she's had to do that, she's able to put on this persona of everything's perfect, everything's fine. And there was the one shot toward the end where she was standing all alone in the tower and walking through with the hat, reminiscing on the loss. To me, I felt like it hit that beat and that the smiling, happy of her in front of everyone was still her performative nature, her putting that on for the public to help cover what had been done per Elphaba's request.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know. I think I just wanted that shot at the end to give us this idea of like, no doubt this is a complex ending.
It doesn't sell.
I know it doesn't sell. And it's probably because I read the book first, which is super dark, and everybody dies. Now, Glinda doesn't die, but Elphaba really dies. Fiyero really, doesn't die, but he's the scarecrow, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't walk off into the sunset with anybody. Anyhow, let's go to our first category that we're going to do with Lauren. The winner of the movie. Lauren, you being our guest, we will let you go first. Who is your winner of the movie?
I picked Cynthia Erivo. I think that all of the leading cast were really good, but I think a lot of them were already really well known. And because of, I'd say both movies, but especially this one, she is more well known. And I think that she is the one who's going to benefit most from the success of these movies.
Yeah, I think that's a good take. The cast is so wide and huge in the first one. And in this one, it really narrows.
Mm-hmm.
So that Cynthia and Ariana are really the focus of this movie. And of course, we've talked about that already, about how wonderful they are. Cody, who's your winner of the movie?
I'm a little bit like Lauren growing up. Like, Sound of Music was on, Grease, and I really wasn't the hugest fan of musicals on film. But musicals on making their way to film is going to continue because of the financial success of Wicked. And so if there are plays that are still being written with that sort of capturing of the zeitgeist, even if it's not to that extent, you're going to see musicals keep getting made.
That's a really good point, Cody. You know what I'm hopeful for that we really haven't delved into here? The idea that they split this into two movies. Why don't they do that more with musicals? Most musicals have an intermission. Like, it's built into the story. And it's a natural part of stopping the story, letting people regroup, and then starting the story again somewhere. I really feel like it flows nicely with this one that they did. And, we talked about this in the background of like, the movie studios wanted this to be one movie at first. Like, make it 4 hours.
No, thank you.
But I just thought this worked so well. And think about all the other musicals that haven't fared as well that they've stuffed all into one movie. Maybe they would have done better.
Sweeney Todd.
I think Sweeney Todd did all right.
It did.
My winner of the movie is John Chu, the director, not a performer. But he took what I think is a nearly impossible assignment. Take one of the most beloved stage musicals of all time, split it into two films, shoot them at the same time, and somehow make part two feel kind of emotionally different without breaking the spell of part one. And somehow, I think he mostly pulls it off. So
Yeah, and I would agree with that, Dave. And I've heard a lot of people saying that, like, I like part one better, I like part two better, whatever. And I think a lot of the people who immediately were like, oh, I prefer part one. I think the difference is the tone, that there is a change in tone. A year has passed between the two movies. There's a very different setting in Oz at that point. And I think he did a good job of hitting, like you said, that darker tone in the second one without undoing the tone of the first one.
yeah, that's exactly what I had was, I mentioned it briefly in the pod earlier before we came to you. But yeah, how he manages to, they do this all at once. And the second one feels totally different from the first, with the same people, the same, I'm assuming, some sets. I don't know how many of them are actual sets and whatnot, but I don't know. I just feel like to make this movie feel like it takes place in the same world with the same people, literally filming it back to back, but yet it feels totally different, I think is something. It's not nothing, that's for sure. Cody's over here shaking his head. He didn't like this as much as I did. And I don't think it's a perfect movie, but I do. If you just kind of look at the skeleton of it, it feels like, oh, he did something special here. Okay, Lauren, this is. Did you have something else?
Oh, I was just going to say, I want to praise what he did on No Good Deed, because in the stage show, I think Defying Gravity is typically like the biggest number, and he knocked No Good Deed out of the park, from the production to the shots of what was going on at the beginning to her vocal performance. I mean, the whole thing of that was amazing, and I think a good part of that is because of his direction and how he chose to do it.
Yeah, that was actually one of my what's good moments of the movie. Is I thought No Good Deed, that was one of the things I was worried about going into this movie, was how do you elevate one of the songs? Because Defying Gravity is the center point of that movie. I know it's at the end, but it is literally what you're building towards. And how do you take No Good Deed's a big song in the musical, but it's not like that. It's not the climax of a the first half. And so how was that going to look in the middle of the movie rather than the end? And would it live up to that kind of hype? And I enjoyed that as well. I thought it was good. Of course, Cynthia Erivo can sing that incredibly, which, like what she has to live up to, Idina Menzel, is
right.
Like, I don't know if, because I saw like the first traveling cast, because it was, man, this has been almost 20 years ago that I saw this musical. And even back then I was like, well, this lady's good, but she's no Idina Menzel, so to get up there and to be something and perform something that's on that level is again, not nothing. Lauren, this is where it gets interesting though, because I'm going to ask you who your loser of the movie is.
So I'm going to do two sides of the same coin. I'm unfortunately going with Michelle Yeoh and Madame Morrible. So I think both as the actress and the character, I chose her as the loser because it seemed as though her singing voice is weaker than the others. And it's not necessarily that she's a bad singer, but when you put her against these powerhouse voices, it's not quite, it doesn't quite carry. In the opening of part two for Good, there's a song called Thank Goodness. She's supposed to have a solo in there and they completely cut it. She sings one line, and then when it comes time where she would normally, where that solo is, they replaced it with a short spoken monologue, which is a portion of what she says. But that part is actually where she full on lies to everyone about how Glinda became who she was and what Elphaba did and how terrible she is. And you lose that because they cut it. And I'm assuming it was due to singing. And then the character in and of herself, just because at the end, she's going to get locked up for a very long time. So I figured that was deserving of being the loser.
Yeah. And of course, I don't know if you remember this, but she was both of our choices to recast in the first review for the first movie. Cody and Cody and I agreed, which doesn't happen very often.
It doesn't.
And she was again my choice to recast in this movie for many of the reasons you just said. It's just so weird. Like, you wonder if it's one of those castings they wish they could have taken back. Because Michelle Yeoh's like Michelle Yeoh's awesome.
Oh, she's amazing.
But she's like strong female presence, and I assume that that's what they wanted for Madame Morrible. But yeah, there's also a charm part of Morrible that I feel gets lost. And then of course singing, like, yeah, it's like you got to be able to sing. in this, and in this movie, it completely falls off for that character. She's like a caricature, and she's super thin.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Cody, who's your loser of the movie?
Frank Baum. Seriously, it's Frank Baum. I'm going to use strong words.
Okay, use it.
Adulteration of his story.
Oh,
Like, holy
Cody.
cow.
Cody is going all out.
Like, so I really did not like this movie at all. And having seen the play on Broadway, like, I had expectations. This movie didn't live up to it. And I feel like I now know how Coolio felt when Weird Al did Amish Paradise. Like, oh, you can't, this is sacred. You can't touch this. No, this is like, it felt like a parody for me as I'm watching it. This movie or this book that was about the populist movement within our political culture in the late 1800s, early 1900s. And now, like, you still had some of it in the movie, although the movie changes quite a bit and for The Wizard of Oz. But now you have Wicked, which like completely warps it, adds things, makes characters up, and it's like, nah, I don't need this.
And to be fair to Cody, just because maybe I don't know, my rebuttal to any of that would start with, well, the context of now is different than the context of the original readers of Wizard of Oz, and for most people living now, it's not about what Baum wanted it to be about.
Oh,
you know?
yeah.
And so, like,
It's Bruce Springsteen, born in the USA.
Exactly. And so I think there's that, but I don't necessarily, I think I'm saying Cody's not alone, because from what I have read online, the people that have a problem with this movie, it almost always has to do with the liberties taken with the Wizard of Oz characters.
Mm-hmm.
Those characters specifically, Scarecrow, Tin Man, Dorothy, the Lion, those are the ones where this movie kind of reaches and tries to fuse together the two stories, where it kind of misses for some people. I don't fully understand it, because for me, they're just separated. Like, I feel like Wicked's just a different story, but I get it.
It exists.
Yes. My loser of the movie it's not a performer. It's not even a creative decision. It's the fans who want this story to end here. Because if we're being honest, there's zero chance the studio lets this be the final chapter. I have already seen headlines that says they're working on sequels and a Wicked world. And I'm just telling you, it can't get it only goes downhill from here. The 2-part adaptation was massively expensive. The IP is now back in the zeitgeist. It's more popular than it's ever been, probably. And movie executives are practically allergic to saying, you know what? That was good. Let's walk away. They're not going to do that. And that's the problem, because Wicked, book, stage, film, has always lived inside. Yes, it's an expanded Wizard of Oz world. It's an expanded world and universe. But let's be honest and fair. The story is about Elphaba and Glinda. And it's powerful because it ends. That's the point. Because the emotional weight lands. Because the story feeds directly into Oz mythology without trying to sprawl into new corners of that universe. And if they try to franchise this thing with prequels and sequels and Glinda solo films, Oz the Next Generation, whatever, listen, there are movies out there from the 80s and 90s, if you look for them, of where they already tried to do this with the Wizard of Oz, and they never are successful.
No.
It's bad. They're going to water down what makes this version meaningful. Some stories earn their final curtain. This one should have. So the loser of the movie for me is anyone who hopes the studio shows restraint, because they absolutely won't. Sorry, Lauren. Do you want more, Lauren? Or is...
No.
Yeah. I figured you'd say no. All right. Lauren, how many Grimmeries out of 10 are you giving this movie?
I wanted to rate it a little higher simply for No Good Deed. it hit so well for me. And I actually saw it before my husband, so when we saw it together, he literally turned to me and started clapping, like quietly in the theater because we were so excited about that performance. However, I think for me there was a lot of pacing issues throughout the movie, a lot of
Yes.
the added stuff that they put in. And just for reference, because we all know they added stuff, but the stage play runs about 2.5 hours. The movie is about 5 hours of runtime. So they doubled the runtime between the two movies, and the second act is shorter than the first act. So there was a lot of added stuff, and the pacing was very difficult at times. So that knocked it back down for me. I think it was a generally good adaptation, and I was satisfied enough with it. I still enjoyed it. So I decided to give it 7.
Okay. That's a pretty low rating for where I expected you to be at. But I think I agree with all those things. Cody, how many Grimmeries out of 10?
Um, like if it was just based off of singing, I'd probably be in the 8.5 to 9 range. But there's movie to be dealt with and storytelling and issues with like rapidly speeding through some things that needed time to breathe and then like elongating things that did not need to breathe. Um, 5.5 or 6.
Okay. Still a sliver above average for you.
Yes.
Cody, showing humanity. I thought you were going to bomb on it. Yeah, I will echo everything you guys have said. I definitely think as a story that you're telling, this one struggles a little bit, especially Lawrence, you brought up the pacing. And I do think it is absolutely because it's not unlike when the Game of Thrones showrunners ran out of material and they had to start telling the story themselves. And that's when everyone started to hate it. It's because often is the case when you run out of material from the original storytellers, you can't do it as well. It doesn't matter the quality of the writers. It's their creation. And so to some extent, I mean, look at Lucas and Star Wars. Nobody would argue, even the hardcorest of Star Wars fans, none of them would argue that Star Wars has generally gotten better since Lucas sold to Disney. Like they would say, no, the old stuff is still king. So I think you see that in this movie. And although I think they gave it a good effort, if you will, it definitely struggles under the weight of, hey, we've got to add in some context here, stuff that the stage musical didn't figure to flesh out because it wasn't relevant to that story. Yeah, I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10. I think I gave the first movie an 8.5. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
And yeah, so I'm going to go down a full point for this one. And it's only that high, again, because I do think, like Lauren said, I think No Good Deed's incredible. And it might be of all the things in this adaptation, I do think No Good Deed, because I did not think this about Defying Gravity, but I think this version of No Good Deed becomes the definitive version.
I'm almost ashamed of how no one's mentioning For Good.
I mean, it's good. But
It's the ending note. It is the crescendo of the whole play or musical, and we're just going to dismiss it.
Well,
Shenanigans.
because I'll stick by what I said. I don't think it lives up to the stage version.
Oh, I think anytime you get both of them together, it's better than one being by themselves.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, it's good. I cried.
Slander.
I cried. All right. Okay, Lauren. Here's one bonus question for you before we go. If you could speak directly to John M. Chu, like you guys are friends, before he's pressured into making Wicked 3, what would you tell him?
First, I would tell him I thought he did pretty good overall. I thought he hit a lot of the emotional beats. There was a lot of stuff that was put in that, like, those moments hit harder than the stage play. A few things I think, I, even having watched it when I didn't always understand some of the nuance of stuff that they made clearer. Um, but I think overall, I would say I mean, my opinion, I didn't think it needed to be two movies. I didn't think it needed all the extra, some extra, not all the extra. But overall, I would say kudos. You did a good job.
Oh, very good. I'm glad you threw that in there because
I agree. This could have been one maybe perfect movie, and I would not have my Frank Baum losing
interesting.
Interesting.
I mean, given what I just said, you'd think I would be annoyed that it's two movies as well. But I don't know, it worked for me for some reason because of like where the intermission lands, and that's where the first movie ends, and I'm just okay with it. But given this movie, yeah, I guess it makes sense to say maybe it could have been one movie.
Still with an intermission. I'm good with you saying intermission.
Absolutely.
That's a chance for us to go out to the lobby, get
Yes,
some
it
snacks. Okay. All right, Lauren, thank you so much for being on the pod with us.
Yes, thank you for having me.
All right, and we will, when Wicked 3 comes back, maybe you'll come back on. We can just rip on it.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in, and make sure and subscribe, do all that stuff, and we will see you next time.